The following episode of Time Tellers is for educational and informational purposes only. While we strive for historical accuracy, interpretations and perspectives may vary. Some topics discussed may include sensitive or graphic content. Listener discretion is advised. The views expressed in this episode do not necessarily reflect those of the host, producers, or affiliates. We encourage listeners to conduct their own research and engage critically with the material. Imagine it is early morning in Chicago. The city is waking up around us. Buses hiss at corners, coffee shops unlock their doors. Trains rattle overhead, and the wind of Lake Michigan pushes through the buildings. Near the intersection of Adams Street and Michigan Avenue, a sign offers a simple instruction. Begin historic Route 66.
And we are going west.
West through Chicago traffic and Illinois farm country, across the Mississippi River into Missouri, through the hills, caves, and waterways of the Ozarks.
Across 13 little miles of Kansas, into Oklahoma, where roadside folk art, oil towns, tribal communities, and black travel history all share the same highway. Then across the Texas Panhandle, where the horizon seems too wide to be real. That sounds like a vacation and a history class had a baby.
Today, we are not merely talking about Route 66, we're driving it. And because this is Time Tellers, we are stopping for the famous places, the strange places, the nearly forgotten places, and the communities that depend on the steady sound of tires passing outside their doors. Route 66 stretched roughly 2,400 miles through 8 states, connecting Chicago with Los Angeles area. It carried commuters, truckers, migrants, soldiers, salespeople, vacationing families, and people searching for a better life. It became an artery of transportation, a force of economic and social change, and one of the most powerful symbols in the American imagination.
So this is not only, look, a giant statue.
No, although there will absolutely be giant statues. In 2026, Route 16 turns 100. The United States marks its... Oh my God.
Go smack yourself.
In 2026, Route 16 turns 100.
Route 16?
I did not say that.
Yes, you actually did.
No. In 2026, Route 66 turns 100, while the United States marks its 250th anniversary. Or birthday. I don't know why anniversary. That doesn't make sense. Those two invite the same question. What can a road reveal about the country that built it? A lot of Route 66 imagery begins in the desert. We picture red rock, empty pavement, flickering neon, abandoned gas pumps, and an endless western horizon. But the east to west journey begins in Chicago,
Which immediately ruins the empty road fantasy.
Route 66 begins in one of America's great cities, a place shaped by railroads, factories, stockyards, immigration, labor movement, architecture, blues music, and lakefront weather that can humble almost anyone. The traditional starting point is near Adams Street and Michigan Avenue in downtown Chicago. From there, the road heads southwest through the city into Cicero, Berwyn, Lyon, and McCook, before continuing towards Joliet.
As made famous by the Blues Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
A sweet home, Chicago.
The first section does not feel like a cinematic western. It feels like traffic lights, neighborhoods, industrial corridors, old storefronts, rail crossings, and commuter traffic. Route 66 was not created solely for tourists seeking adventure. It was a working road. It moved goods, labor, families, and commerce. Its romance came later.
As Chicago loosens its grip, suburbs give way to small cities, farm towns, grain elevators, courthouse square, service stations, and long stretches of Illinois sky. The Illinois portion runs approximately 300 miles from Chicago to the Mississippi River. Along the way, the route passes through communities including Joliet, Wilmington, Pontiac, Bloomington, Normal, Lincoln, Springfield, Litchfield, Stoughton, and Mitchell.
So Illinois gives us a smaller version of the entire trip.
City streets, suburbs, industrial towns, farmland, a state capital, small businesses, and finally, a major river crossing. But first, we need to meet a giant green spaceman. In Wilmington, Illinois, we find one of Route 66's most recognizable figures. He is tall, he is green, he wears a space helmet, and he's holding a rocket.
He's now holding a rocket because they had to make a new one, because people keep stealing it. As one naturally does in rural Illinois.
Makes sense. The Gemini Giant is one of the most famous fiberglass figures, commonly called muffler men. The Gemini Giant is one of the most famous fiberglass figures, commonly called muffler men. These oversized advertising statues appeared across mid-century America, often standing outside restaurants, service stations, and automotive businesses.
The Wilmington figure was associated with the Launching Pad Drive-In, which opened during the 1960s when America was fascinated by astronauts, rockets, and the race to the moon. His name refers to NASA's Project Gemini, the human spaceflight program that helped prepare the United States for the Apollo missions.
The result is a perfect piece of Route 66 history. Roadside advertising, fast food, fiberglass spectacle, and space-age optimism combined into one enormous green figure.
He is saying, eat here, we have hamburgers in the future.
Businesses along Route 66 only had a few seconds to capture a driver's attention. A restaurant, motel, gas station, or souvenir shop competed with every other business down the road. Owners relied on neon, unusual architecture, clever signs, enormous statues, and promise of mystery. The Gemini Giant was a billboard with arms.
Which sounds both effective and mildly threatening.
In 2024, the Juliet Area Historical Museum acquired the figure to help preserve it, and the Gemini Giant was installed at a new location in Wilmington's South Island Park.
That's accurate.
That preservation effort matters. Route 66 history is unusually vulnerable. Signs rust, motels close, restaurants burn. Owners retire, roads are widened, businesses or buildings are demolished.
You just didn't get into why they had to buy it.
Tell us why they had to buy it.
Well, because the couple that bought the diner with the Gemini Giant had issues, and it was part of a massive custody battle. That's actually what. That's 100% accurate.
What? Okay.
Yes. They were fighting over who would actually get to keep the diner and everything.
Makes sense.
Yeah. That's why the Historical Society kind of jumped in to,
save the day.
We'll just buy it. Anyway, some landmarks survive only because the community decides they're worth rescuing. The Gemini Giant reminds us that Route 66 is not frozen in 1965.
I was going to say, why are you talking so fast? But you're trying to get it out before you yawned.
I've been here all day. It is continually being lost, restored, moved, repainted, and reinvented.
From Wilmington, the route continues through Braidwood, Gardner, Dwight, Odell, Pontiac, Chenoa, and Bloomington Normal. These are not simply names on a map. They are towns that the highway made visible.
Pontiac has embraced the Route 66 identity through murals, museums, preserved buildings, and public art. Bloomington Normal returns us briefly to a larger urban area before the landscape opens again towards Lincoln and Springfield.
Okay. It's not a race.
I didn't think I was that.
Reading it like an auctioneer. Okay, sorry. The further we travel from Chicago, the straighter the road feels. The land widens. Grain elevators rise over small towns like landmarks. Old service stations and railroad lines remain close to the highway. And soon, the name Lincoln begins appearing everywhere. We pass through Lincoln, Illinois, one of the only towns named for President Abraham Lincoln before he became president. Then we reach Springfield, the Illinois capital and the city most closely associated with Lincoln's adult life. Springfield could support an entire episode on its own. It connects Route 66 to Lincoln's home, his legal and political career, the Civil War, presidential memory, Illinois government, and a thriving roadside dining culture.
So even on a road famous for odd attractions, we keep passing through places central to the national story. Route 66 contains the strange and the serious side by side. Leaving Springfield, we continue through towns such as Litchfield, Staunton, Hamel, Mitchell, and Madison. And the land begins guiding us towards one of the great geographic thresholds of the journey, the Mississippi River.
The
Oh, miss.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was agreeing with you.
No, you can.
Dad,
You
what
can.
river is this?
That's the Mississippi, the mighty Mississippi. The old miss, the old man.
The Mississippi has always been more than a body of water in American history. It has served as a transportation route, commercial artery, military objective, ecological system, and symbolic dividing line between East and West. It has also flowed through indigenous homelands long before the United States claimed the river as part of its own national story.
For Route 66 travelers, the Mississippi marked the first great crossing of the westward journey. And for many years, they crossed it on a bridge with a surprising turn.
The Chain of Rocks Bridge crosses the Mississippi River north of downtown St. Louis. Today, pedestrians and cyclists use the bridge, but it once carried Route 66 traffic between Illinois and Missouri. The bridge is famous for the bend near its center, often described as a turn of approximately 30 degrees.
A turn in the middle of a bridge sounds like something drivers should be warned about several miles in advance.
You would think. It certainly made the crossing memorable. Standing on the bridge today, visitors can feel the river wind, look towards St. Louis, and imagine the steady line of automobiles moving west. This is where Route 66 becomes a physical ceremony. Travelers leave Illinois behind, cross one of the continent's defining rivers, and enter Missouri.
The literal gateway to the west.
The nickname for St. Louis, which has long used that title. Route 66 allows motorists to experience the phrase in motion. After crossing into Missouri, Route 66 moves through the St. Louis region before turning southwest. Depending on the historic alignment, travelers pass through or near communities including Webster Groves, Kirkwood, Times Beach, Eureka, Pacific, Gray Summit, Villa Ridge, Stanton, Cuba, Rolla, Lebanon, and Springfield. The landscape changes noticeably. Illinois farmland gives way to wooded hills, valleys, winding roads, creeks, and river crossings. Older routes, including trails associated with the indigenous nations in the Old Wire Road, help shape portions of what later became Route 66.
So the road did not appear in empty land.
No road ever does.
But it votes.
That empty land, definitely. Route 66 was laid over older paths of travel, trade, migration, displacement, communication, and conflict. By the time motorists arrived, people had been crossing these landscapes for centuries. Missouri is one of the most atmospheric stretches of Route 66. The road climbs and falls through the Ozarks.
It curves around hills, follows valleys, and crosses waterways such as the Miramec and Gasconde rivers. Early automobile travel depended heavily on bridges and weather.
A flooded creek, a damaged bridge, a muddy road, or a winter storm can turn a routine trip into a serious problem.
This is where the drive starts to feel less like a straight highway and more like an adventure.
And Missouri also gives us one of Route 66's most heavily advertised attractions. Near Stanton, about 60 miles southwest of St. Louis, lies Miramec Caverns. The cave system became one of the great roadside attractions of Route 66. Its appeal combined genuine geology with tourism, spectacle, folklore, and relentless advertising.
Lester Dill acquired the property during the 1930s and developed it into a major tourist destination as automobile travel increased. Travelers encountered painted signs for the caverns long before they arrived. Barn roofs walls advertised the attraction across the region. Each sign helped build anticipation. So by the time a family reached the cave, they had already been marketed for several hours.
It was suspenseful advertising. The signs promised darkness, underground rooms, strange formation, and adventure beneath the Ozarks. Miramec Caverns also became associated with stories about the outlaw Jesse James, who was said to have used the caves as a hideout. The historical evidence behind some of these claims has been debated, but the legend became part of the attraction.
The cave is real, the geology is real, the outlaw story may have become more useful with every billboard.
That's a good way to put it. Route 66 often blurred the lines between documented history, local folklore, and effective salesmanship. The road did not simply transport people through America. It sold them stories about America. From Stanton, the road continues towards Cuba, known today for its murals, and then to Rolla, where Ozarks scenery meets the energy of a college town. We move through Lebanon and towards Springfield, Missouri. Springfield holds a special place in Route 66 history because of its association with the highway's name.
In 1926, businesses and civic leaders promoted the number 66 for the proposed route between Chicago and Los Angeles. The city continues to celebrate that connection and was selected to host major centennial events in 2026. From Springfield, we continue west through communities such as Halton, Carthage, and Joplin. And almost before we realize it, we enter Kansas.
Kansas receives only about 13 or 14 miles of Route 66, depending on how the historic alignment is measured.
Ooh, we could do a whole episode on all the alignments. Hint, hint. You could miss the whole state while changing the radio station.
You could, but you should not. The Kansas section passes through the southeastern corner of the state, including Galena, Riverton, and Baxter Springs. It is a short stretch filled with the mining history, preserved bridges, service stations, and modern Route 66 pop culture.
So, in other words, you could change the radio station and you're not in Kansas anymore?
We're not in Kansas anymore. Galena developed as a lead and zinc mining town. Its name comes from galena, a mineral that serves as an important source of lead.
Long before modern visitors came looking for Route 66 souvenirs, Galena was a working industrial community shaped by mining labor, economic booms, environmental damage, and eventual decline.
Today, many travelers associate the town with cars on the route. A restored former Canotech service station featuring old vehicles and Route 66 memorabilia. A rusty tow truck in Galena helped contribute to the roadside imagery that inspired characters in Pixar's Cars. Did you really think we were going to talk about Route 66 and not talk about cars?
You have to Disneyfy everything. So an old industrial vehicle became an animated movie star.
In a way, yes. But also, if Disney sues us, that's some PR. Galena shows how Route 66 can transform rust and decline it into nostalgia. But we should remember what existed before the nostalgia. These were not communities built as movie sets.
Gasp.
They were, right? They were mining towns.
You mean they were real?
Yes. Railroad towns, farm towns, bunch of towns, oil towns, where people worked difficult jobs and depended on regional industries.
Like tree pushing?
Sure. The Route 66 revival helped make many of them visible again, but the polished souvenir version is only one layer of the story. North of Baxter Springs stands the Brush Creek Bridge, better known as the Rainbow Bridge. Its curved concrete form is a surviving example of a marsh rainbow arch bridge. Other similar bridges along the Kansas section were dismantled, leaving this one as a rare reminder of early highway engineering.
It looks decorative, but it was doing essential work. It was an essential worker.
Did not get to stay home during COVID.
Nope. They had to stay there so people could leave their home when they weren't supposed to buy stuff they didn't need.
Route 66 is remembered for neon signs and diners, but its bridges are equally important. Without bridges, a highway is simply a series of roads interrupted by water. Do you like that one?
No.
Okay. The Rainbow Bridge shows us the bones of the old route.
I was trying to post your post, sorry.
The infrastructure that made long-distance automobile travel possible. After Baxter Springs, Kansas ends almost as quickly as it began. We cross into Oklahoma, and Oklahoma gives us more drivable miles of old Route 66 than any other state. Oklahoma is central to the Route 66 story. The road passes through or near Commerce, Miami, Afton, Veneta, Chelsea, Foyle, Claremore, Catoosa, Tulsa, Sapulpa, Bristow, Stroud, Chandler, Arcadia, Oklahoma City, El Reno, Weatherford, Clinton, Elk City, and Sayre.
It moves through tribal lands, agricultural communities, former mining centers, oil towns, railroad corridors, and growing cities. Oklahoma is also closely connected to Cyrus Avery, the Tulsa businessman often called the father of Route 66.
Avery promoted the creation of a major highway linking Chicago with the Southwest and California. He helped shape the road's identity and advocated for the number 66.
And Oklahoma seems to specialize in things built by people who looked at space and said, this needs something enormous and strange. That's what she said.
That's one way to describe it.
Oh, I thought you said that's what, not that's one. I thought you took my line.
Oklahoma's roadside landscape contains some of Route 66's finest handmade attractions. But the state also offers one of the most important reminders. Not everyone experienced the highway the same way. First, the folk art. A few miles away, a few miles from Route 66, near Foyle, is Ed Galloway's Totem Pole Park. Built between 1937 and 1961, the site contains large, brightly decorated concrete and stone structures, reinforced with steel and wood. The park is one of Oklahoma's oldest and largest folk art environments. So it was not designed by a corporation or a tourism board. Oh, that was your line.
Just keep going. So we can recognize the artistic achievement without pretending the cultural context is simple.
That is not your line.
Oh, I went too far. So it was not designed by a corporation or tourism board.
It emerged from one person's long-term creative vision. That handmade quality is central to its appeal. The park feels personal, eccentric, and difficult to classify. But the name and imagery also requires some context. Galloway was not native, yet he used native-inspired forms and symbols. Like many roadside attractions of the era, the park reflects a time when indigenous imagery was often romanticized, borrowed, commercialized, or detached from the cultures that created it.
So we can recognize the artistic achievement without pretending the cultural context is simple.
Route 66 preservation works best when it preserves the whole story, not merely the most comfortable parts. From Foyle, we continue towards Claremore and Catoosa. Oklahoma may surprise travelers expecting nothing but dry plains.
The eastern section includes trees, creeks, pastures, and gently rolling land. Then near Catoosa, we encounter one of the most beloved objects on the entire road, a giant smiling blue whale.
The blue whale sits beside a pond on Route 66 in Catoosa. Hugh Davis began building it during the early 1970s as a gift for his wife, Celta, and as a place for family recreation. It eventually became a public swimming hole and roadside attraction, complete with slides and diving platforms.
A whale in landlocked Oklahoma is already good. A whale built as a romantic gift is even better.
It is strangely sweet. The blue whale represents the playful, homemade side of Route 66. It was not a grand monument to government, war, or national achievement. It was simply an unusual structure that made people happy enough to stop their cars. The attraction grew into what the National Park Service has described as an automobile-scale folk art, something designed to be noticed from the road.
Because a normal-sized whale would have been too easy to miss.
Precisely. Wait a sec. Didn't we just do the episode on whale hunting in, that was Nebraska, not Oklahoma, but still.
Way to know your landlocked state whale laws.
From Catoosa, Route 66 carries us into Tulsa. Tulsa's history includes oil wealth, striking Art Deco architecture, Cyrus Avery's road-building legacy, and the history of Black Wall Street and the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
Did we do an episode on that? I don't remember.
We have not yet, but we should.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
The city represents both the promise...
Nope. Oh, yes. Sorry. Dan is correct. He'll never hear me say that again. But
I'll hear it whenever I want because I can put that on a loop whenever I want.
Oh, great.
The city represents both the promise and the violence of 20th century American growth. Moving west, we pass through Sapulpa, Bristow, Stroud, and Chandler.
In Arcadia, the Round Barn stands as another Route 66 landmark. At the same time, The modern Pops attraction uses an enormous soda bottle and hundreds of soft drink varieties to continue the tradition of making motorists stop through a spectacle. Then the route enters Oklahoma City before opening into the western part of the state.
But before we leave the Oklahoma section, we need to visit a site that changes the meaning of the phrase freedom of the open road.
About 3 miles east of Luther, Oklahoma, at Old Route 6 and Pottawatomie Road, stands the Threat Filling Station. The station served African Americans travelers during the era of segregation.
This is where the romantic version of Route 66 becomes more complicated, as romance does. It's a requirement.
It's also why Dan doesn't like romance. For many...
I was going to poke your violin.
Don't touch me. He's referring to my tattoo.
No, I was referring to the real violin.
For many white travelers, the highway represented freedom, adventure, and spontaneous travel. A family could get into a car, follow the map, and decide where to eat or sleep along the way. Black travelers did not enjoy the same freedom.
They had to plan carefully. Would a gas station serve them? Would a restaurant allow them to eat? Would a motel rent them a room? Could they safely stop after dark? You still can't do that in the South.
Would they face humiliation, violence, or arrest in a sundown town? The Threat Filling Station provided fuel and assistance to black motorists traveling Route 66. That made it more than a business. It was part of a network of survival.
So gasoline itself became connected to civil rights.
Yes, it did. Mobility means little if travelers cannot safely access the services that enable it. This is why the story of Route 66 cannot be reduced to convertibles, diners, and cheerful motel signs. The same road could represent freedom to one person and danger to another. The Threat Station belongs to a broader history that includes the Negro Motorist Green Book and other travel guides that helped Black Americans locate safer businesses and accommodations. And yes, that is a title to a book.
There's
Not-
nothing that says there's nothing wrong with the word Negro.
Well, nobody listening can see that, but it's in italics, which means it's a title of a book.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Although that'd be something fun to hunt down on eBay, to just have that collection of random books.
Right. That would be. I'm sure you can find it.
It really wouldn't surprise me if there's a copy somewhere in this building.
That also wouldn't surprise me.
We will explore that history more fully elsewhere. But here, it is important to recognize that the Mother Road did not treat all of its travelers equally.
West of Oklahoma City, towns began to spread farther apart. We pass Yukon, El Reno, Weatherford, Clinton, Elk City, and Sayre. The land grows drier, the sky grows wider. I'm not sure how it does that, but it seems to. Trees become less dominant, and the horizon begins to take over. We are leaving the greener eastern part of Oklahoma and approaching the Texas Panhandle. This is where distance stops being an abstract measurement. It becomes something you can see. The Texas portion of Route 66 is shorter than Oklahoma's.
Who cares about Texas?
And he says that because I was born in Texas.
We've discussed this.
But it has one of the road's strongest visual identities. Flat land, grain elevators, wind, ranch country, long sight lines, abandoned stations, and a sky so large that approaching weather seems visible from another country. Or county, because there's no R in that word. The road enters Texas near Shamrock and continues through McLean, Allen Reed, Groom, Conway, Amarillo, Vega, Adrian, and Glen Rio.
This is where you can see tomorrow coming.
And where every gas station once mattered. On modern interstates, services may feel interchangeable. On early Route 66, the distance between gasoline, food, water, and lodging could become a serious concern. Each glowing sign represented relief. Our first Texas stop turned that practical need into architecture. In Shamrock stands the Tower Station, and you drop in, one of the most beautiful surviving Route 66 buildings. Its green trim, tower, curved surfaces, and geometric design make it a remarkable example of roadside Art Deco architecture.
It looks far too glamorous to be a gas station.
That's part of its power. Early service stations were not always standardized boxes bearing identical corporate logos. Some were designed as landmarks.
The You Drop In used architecture to call drivers off the road and told travelers they could refuel, eat, rest, and remember Shamrock. The building later influenced the visual world of Pixar's Cars, but its real significance lies in the way it transformed a small-town service stop into a theatrical statement.
Route 66 businesses understood that usefulness brought travelers in. Beauty made them remember. From Shamrock, we continue through McLean, home of the Devil's Rope Museum, where barbed wire receives the kind of detailed historical attention normally reserved for presidents and wars.
Honestly, barbed wire probably changed the West more than several presidents did.
And that's absolutely a fair point. Barbed wire reshaped ranching, agriculture, private property, indigenous movement, and the physical boundaries of the plains. We continue through Allen Reed, Broome, and Conway towards Amarillo.
This stretch could feel lonely, but it was never empty. It's been home to indigenous peoples, ranchers, farmers, railroad workers, oil workers, migrants, and communities built around transportation. Near Amarillo, automobile culture has transformed into one of Route 66's most famous works of public art.
West of Amarillo, 10 Cadillacs stand buried nose first in a field.
It's called Cadillac Ranch.
I think it is. Their tail fins rise from the ground at matching angles, covered in layer after layer of spray paint. This, as Dan just said, spoiler, is Cadillac Ranch.
A graveyard, a sculpture, and a public coloring book.
Created in the 1970s by the art group Ant Farm, Cadillac Ranch predates the road's 1962 opening, also known as 1926 opening, because I flip-flop the numbers. Dyslexia is a thing, people, which I don't have. It belongs to a later chapter of Route 66 mythology.
The installation comments on automobile design, consumer culture, planned obsolescence, and America's fascination with the car. Visitors are encouraged, or at least widely expected, to add their own paint. That means the artwork never remains finished. A traditional moment asks people to preserve its surface.
A traditional monument? A totally different meaning.
Okay. You're lying. I made a mistake.
A traditional monument asks people to preserve its history. At least I noticed I made a mistake. A traditional monument asks people to preserve its surface. Cadillac Ranch invites them to cover it.
So every visitor adds a new layer while burying the previous one,
which makes it an unusually fitting Route 66 landmark. The road itself exists in layers, older alignments beneath newer roads, original businesses beneath restorations, personal memories beneath commercial nostalgia. Cadillac Ranch turns the process into art. West of Amarillo, we pass through Vega and continue toward Adrian. Adrian is celebrated as Adrian is celebrated as the symbolic midpoint of Route 66. The Midpoint Cafe marks the place where travelers are approximately 1,139 miles from Chicago and 1,139 miles from Los Angeles. A midpoint is psychologically powerful. Behind you lies everything you have already survived. Ahead of you is equally long distance still to travel. For a road trip, it becomes a moment of accounting. Do you feel accomplished?
No, exhausted maybe.
Excited?
Homesick? Are you still traveling towards something, or are you beginning to understand what you left behind?
Route 66 turns geography into emotion. And just beyond Adrian, we reach a place where the highway's rise and decline can be seen in the abandoned walls.
Is there the words of the prophets on those walls?
I'm not going to sing it.
Thank you.
Glen Rio sits directly on the Texas-New Mexico border. It is one of Route 66's most haunting ghost towns. Abandoned service stations, motel buildings, faded signs, and empty structures line the old road. The town existed because travelers passed through it. Cars needed fuel, families needed meals, drivers needed beds. Businesses appeared to meet those needs. Then the traffic changed. New alignments, interstate construction, faster travel, and fewer stops weakened the economy that had sustained communities such as Glen Rio.
The road created the town, and then the road moved on.
Glen Rio is a warning built from empty buildings. Route 66 brought opportunity, but that opportunity was fragile.
A business owner could spend decades building a motel or service station only to watch the mainstream of traffic shift several miles away. The interstate did not need to physically destroy a building. It could make the building invisible. Glen Rio gives us the central tragedy of Route 66 preservation.
Many of the places we now find charming were built to serve a travel economy that no longer exists in the same form. When the motorists disappeared, so did jobs, customers, tax revenue, and sometimes entire communities.
But people still come to see what remains.
They do. And that creates its own contradiction. We're drawn to the ruins created by economic decline. We photograph abandoned buildings because they feel atmospheric. We admire peeling paint and broken signs because they seem authentic. But for the people who lived here, abandonment was not an aesthetic. It was a loss. At Glen Rio, we have crossed more than just a state line. We have reached the dividing part of our journey.
Behind us are the crowded streets of Chicago, Illinois farmland, Lincoln, Springfield, the Mississippi River, the hills and caves of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma folk art, oil towns, and black travel history. The enormous horizon of the Texas Panhandle.
We have met a giant green spaceman, crossed a bridge that bends over the Mississippi, descended into the legend of Miramec Caverns, stood beneath a rare rainbow arch, visited a giant blue whale, considered the unequal freedom of the open road, and watched automobiles become art in an Amarillo field.
And we've only reached the midpoint.
Almost. But Glen Rio feels like more than a halfway marker. It feels like the edge between two visual worlds. To the east lies cities, farms, wooded hills, oil towns, and places that carried us here. And plains that carried us here. To the west, Route 66 changes. The land rises, the colors deepen. The road enters a world of mesas, pueblos, lava fields, railroad towns, neon motels, petrified forest, high desert, mountain passes, and Mojave heat.
So part 2 is where the postcard version of Route 66 finally appears an hour and 3 minutes later.
Wow. There's a lot to be taken out of this. In New Mexico, we will confront the way tourism packaged the Southwest for outsiders. In Arizona, we will travel through landscapes shaped in deep geological time, indigenous history, railroad expansion, mining, and roadside advertising. We will cross the Black Mountains on one of the most dramatic surviving alignments of the old road. Then, California will make us cross the Mojave Desert and the Cajun Pass before we finally reach Los Angeles and the Pacific.
We still have neon motels, petrified trees, yay, giant rabbits, even though they're not real rabbits, wild burrows, buried history, and at least one enormous hole in the ground, like the one I keep digging every time I talk next to Renee.
But before we continue, Glen Rio asks us to pause. Route 66 is often celebrated as a symbol of movement, yet some of its most powerful places are the ones where movement stopped. An empty gas station, a motel room with no guest, a sign waiting for a driver who never arrives. The road promised that prosperity would follow in the wake of traffic. Glen Rio reminds us of what happens when that traffic left. By the way, we are no longer recording in my bedroom, by the way.
We got kicked out.
By my boyfriend, no.
So where are we going next?
Across the state line, into New Mexico. And New Mexico changes everything. For Time Tellers, I'm Renee.
And I'm Dan.
Join us in part 2, where we drive from the mesas and the neons of New Mexico, across Arizona's high desert and Black Mountains, through California's Mojave, and all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Until then, keep your eyes on the road and your curiosity on what is waiting beyond the next sign. Bye!
Yay!
Hey, you were mean to me.
No more so than
I thought
usual.
that was a decent episode. I don't know why.
I never said it wasn't.
It was only 25.